Hi, everybody. My name's Adam. You probably knew that already. You probably found my channel recently or a long time ago because of something like Dungeon World, maybe, which is this tabletop role playing game that I made with my friend Sage. Or maybe you found your way over here because I played a role playing game with somebody you like on the internet. Maybe you're a burrito and you found me through Dodger, or maybe you're one of JP's fans from roleplay from way back, or maybe Jesse Cox or Day Nine or any of the other amazing human beings I've gotten to play games with. Um, so maybe that's how you found me. Maybe you know me as Dungeon Master first, and other stuff maybe not so much. Maybe you've come here through Roll20. Maybe you found me through the Roll20 YouTube channel. That would be cool too. But here's the thing: like the more I do this, the more that I hang out and I do streams and play video games and talk about stuff, the more I think you figure out that there might be more to me than just dungeon mastering. I do love the dungeon, I do, but there's some other good stuff going on in my brain, and I've been asked lots of times to talk about some of that stuff. I'm a person who has experience and thoughts and feelings about a few things, but what I love most in the whole world, the things that I love most, I'm gonna lay them out. The things that I love most in the whole wide world are role-playing games and relationships. And what I mean by relationships is the way that human beings interact with one another, and the messy, strange, honestly, mostly beautiful ways that those things can happen. And I figured, since it is a Tuesday, we would normally be doing office hours, which is my time to pontificate on topics for you. And it's also a day that in Western civilization we traditionally associate with feelings of love. Talk about you in a second, Valentine's Day. It might be a nice thing to get together and hang out. Originally, back when Persona was supposed to come out today, we were going to play that, and we are going to have a little anti-Valentine's Day. But I think that there's a lot of pressure today, and fuck it, every day, to fit ourselves into a specific kind of relational mold. There's a narrative that society has for us for relationships. I mean, particularly relationships with a capital R, involving romance and probably sex and maybe living with someone and having babies and dying alone, but next to someone. There's a narrative that romance has. And I wanna talk about my interactions with that narrative. And maybe if you're feeling a little fucked up by the normative models of how to be a person today on obligatory relationship celebration day, maybe we can talk about it, and maybe we can help you feel better about being the person that you are rather than the person that you are expected to be. Because that kind of thing is my jam. Yeah, I'm gonna just talk about kind of my experiences with relationships, and this is going to be kind of a personal stream for me, but I think that's okay. I think that we as broadcasters and YouTubers and whatever, we trade in intimacy, and there are things that I think would make me feel good to have about me. I think I like to be understood, right? Who doesn't like to be understood? And being understood is a thing that I have struggled with my whole life, that feeling of wanting to be heard. And so I'm going to talk about my experiences, and hopefully they'll give you a better understanding of me, and that in turn will make me feel better. It's a nice little thing we got going here. Thanks for coming. Um, so I guess I should start by talking about the fact that I am queer and what that means. Now, there are a lot of ways that people can identify themselves around the spectrum of gayness. Um, and it's a thing I've struggled with. I don't think that any queer person is, I don't think any person, regardless of your sexual identity, I don't think you're born with a fully formed idea of who you're going to be your whole life. We have certain inbuilt attractions and interests, but there's a lot of pressure from the structures around us, whether it's our family or our peers, schools, church, any institution that exists around us is going to it's going to pressure us to behave or to think a certain way. And for me, I was born, as I think many young North American reasonably well-off people are, in that there was no question that I was a straight person, and that I was going to grow up like the other members of my family, and I was going to get married, because that's what you do, and I was going to have kids and buy a house and have a family and do all that stuff. And I think pretty early on, I realized that that wasn't the case. I started to struggle with the idea that I didn't fit the mold of being a straight person. And I didn't have a lot of terminology for a lot of the things that I was feeling. And I think that as I was growing up, I was dealing with both that and another track of adolescent confusion around monogamy. The idea that a romantic sexual relationship is best when it's between two individuals on either end of the imaginary gender binary. And so, I think that for me, my queerness encompasses all of the things that I'm going to talk about today. It may not be the core thing for all of this stuff, but it's certainly a factor, right? And I think that this is something that's worth remembering, that, if you are, or if you know people who are, LGBT, people who are outside that normative structure, their identity is about more than just who they want to sleep with, right? If you have a friend who tells you that they are a lesbian, it indicates a lot more about the space that they occupy in the world than just they are a person who identifies as a woman who likes being in relationships or having sex with other people who are women. So my queerness colors everything about my life. It colors my experience as a game master. It covers my experience as a broadcaster, a streamer, a person, a friend, someone in the world. And it's worth talking about, I think, because of that, because it's part of all of that stuff. I want to talk too a little bit about how my experience has always been one where romance, which is to say like strong emotional feelings about someone, and sex, the interest in wanting to do sex things with people, those have been present in my life all the way through. I have some complicated feelings about romance as a thing, as a commodified object. Again, Valentine's Day we'll talk about. But the thing is, though, I wanted to say is that this is all coming from my point of view, my experience, and I don't want people to overlook or invalidate the fact that for some folks, those two things don't necessarily play into the way they have relationships, right? There are people, shout outs to my aromantics, shout outs to my asexuals. There are people for whom those are just absent in varying degrees. There are shades of grayness to that stuff, right? For some people, romance and sex are just not relevant to their relationships. But for other people, varying degree of importance. And I think that that's important to recognize, that those identities are just as valid. My experience tends towards the inclusion of those things, but you're real. Your experiences are real, whether you feel them the same way that I do, or anyone does, or not. So for me, I think the thing is, I want to talk mostly about the idea of relationships, right? Because there's this present thing. Let's talk about the prevailing narrative, and then we can talk about ways in which it's weird to be not that, and struggles that might encompass. But there's a narrative. There's a way that we are explicitly or implicitly pressured to participate in relationships, right? Usually when we look to media, when we look to the people around us, the vast majority of relationships fit a pretty normal model. They fit the similar standardized model, right? So generally what's expected of a person who is engaging in romantic and sexual exploration and attempting to kind of move through the world in a way that focuses them on relationships is that they start to become interested in people, and they start to date. Dating is kind of the first thing that people usually do. I hate the word dating. I hate dates. It's blah. I hate it. It's so unclear. But what normally happens is people start to go on dates. Maybe they date multiple people at the same time. It's considered casual. Maybe you don't get that emotionally invested, or expected not to get that emotionally invested. However, you're a teenager, usually at this point. So emotional investment and emotional intensity and trying not to feel that is very difficult. So already we have our biology getting in the way, but we're expected to date around, to try out different things, to engage with different people in different ways, spend time with them, get to know them. And the idea of this phase isn't to enjoy it for what it is. The idea of this phase is to pick the one you like the best, right? Date 5 people, date 10 people, date 100 people, pick the one you like the best, and then wife them, or whatever, husband them, because that's the goal of dating. The goal of dating is to pick a person and to decide that you want them to marry you, and hopefully they will agree. And if they don't agree, then you get sad and you have to go back and do the dating thing again until you figure it out. So you find someone to get married to, and you marry them, and then you marry that person. There's an expensive ritual that you perform. And once the wifing has occurred, you and your spouse are expected to have a number of years in which you are desperately crazy in love with each other. And you're supposed to post disgusting Facebook updates about how much you love each other. You're supposed to constantly be having sex, because it's going to be baby time soon. And when you have a baby, then all of the honeymoon stuff is done. You don't do that anymore. You have your baby, and your life is about your child. And then you have another child, and then depending on how well off you are, maybe you have another one. But around this time, you're expected to find a house to live in, then buy a bigger house with a different kind of car, and to continue to engage in this process. And then your children will grow up, and then they'll go off and do their dating thing, and eventually they'll get married. You won't have to deal with them anymore. Then you get old with your person that you married. There may be a period of renewed excitement about the world now that you don't have kids. They're older, they've grown up. Then you die. And if you follow that path, you are performing the normative performance of relationships. Now, I'm coming across as pretty judgy, because that's not my experience with relationships at all. It's not how my parents had their relationship. It's not how many of your parents did. I think that the reason I'm being a little snippy about it is that there are lots of places that you can divert or get off the escalator completely. And in some cases, you can choose not to get on the escalator at all, right? I mean, there are all kinds of factors in how broken that narrative is. Monogamy as a thing is great if you want to create legally enforced, closed units of family for the purposes of reproduction. You want to maintain a line. You want to carry out a particular narrative arc, and the thing is, it's fine. It's a thing. You can do this. You can date. You can get married. You can have kids. You can have an incredibly fulfilling life if that's what you want. If you do so with intent and consent, right? But the problem is that we don't get a chance to question these things. We instead play the role, and we perform the dance, and we end up in a position where sometimes we're doing something that doesn't quite feel right for us because that's what we're expected to do, that we're socialized to get on that escalator. And for me, what really started to signal that maybe that escalator wasn't meant for me was that very early on, in relationships, I started to realize that I just didn't understand a lot of the behavior that was expected of me. I would get emotionally invested in people who the possibility of dating did not exist, right? I had very close emotional relationships with my male friends who were straight. And I, at the time, thought I was straight because I was just like, I was a kid, basically. And that's not a thing that you were meant to do. I would have strong romantic feelings for more than one person at a time. Monogamy has never been a thing that I've been any good at. And I would feel terrible about that because it's explicitly in the narrative, it's explicitly a thing that you are supposed to be good at. Because if you're not, you're a bad person, right? And there's all kinds of shame that gets built up around the idea of being bad at monogamy, or being bad at keeping your feelings to yourself, or being bad at these things. There's a skill set you are expected to develop. And I think that's really tough. It's really hard to be a legit, honest person with yourself if you're trying to be performing this normative dance. And so I spent a lot of time in my teenage years wondering if maybe I was gay. Maybe that was the problem, right? Maybe the reason that I was having these relationships with people that weren't working out is because I was having relationships with the wrong people. Maybe there was just something wrong with me generally. Maybe I needed therapy, right? Like maybe I had a mental health issue that was making it so I couldn't interact with people in a way that felt authentic to me. And I spent most of my formative kind of teenage years not just avoiding it, not having close relationships with people because of those things. And instead, I just played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. Honestly, as a kid, I played a lot of D&D, and I did a lot of acting. And the reason why those things felt good to me was because I got to pretend to be someone that felt more comfortable. Sometimes that was a level 5 wizard, and sometimes it was a role in a play. But the idea is that I got to try to be someone else. And I did spend a lot of time sort of struggling with those things. And they worked out great. I'm glad that I had all that D&D as a teenager, but it meant that I didn't really get to have a lot of close relationships as a younger person. I got on the relationship train quite late. As I got to being in my 20s, I'd had one or two kind of serious relationships. But invariably, they would run into, and this is a thing that was true basically right up until I was like 25 or so. The relationships that I was in would run into trouble where monogamy came up, and not always for me, right? Like when I say that I had a hard time understanding it as a concept, I don't mean that I had a hard time understanding it for myself. I wasn't like, I'm just bad at being real with a person and only wanting to be with them. I meant that there are circumstances in which I would be with someone in a monogamous relationship, and they would have interest in someone else, or they would they would become involved with someone else while we were in that relationship, and they would either tell me or I would find out, and I wouldn't get upset. I've always had a problem with feeling jealous in that I've never understood it. It's never been something that I could, it's never been something that I could get my head around. And that can cause problems too, because it's expected. This is part of the narrative that if somebody else were to have reason for me to feel jealous and I didn't, then there's a sense of failure there. It's like, why aren't you upset about this, right? I care about somebody else. I'm having romantic feelings for someone else. I want to have sex with someone else. Why aren't you upset? And so for me, not feeling upset about that was another way that I was failing at those kinds of relationships. And as a teenager, as a nerdy 20 something, trying to figure out how relationships work and not having a lot of help, it was a rough time. It was a bad time. And I say this not just to be like, boo-hoo, I had a hard time, but to be like, hey, if you're feeling that, if you're feeling like confused and you're like all kind of jumbled up about how relationships work, that's okay. It's okay to be confused and fucked up. Cause you'll figure it out. People will help you. You'll get to a better place. And I did, right? Like for me, the first thing that I really ended up discovering as a step towards where I'm at now, towards the kinds of relationships that I have now. The first thing that really happened to me was finding out about non-monogamy, finding out about the ways that people have relationships that don't include that component. Now, as with most people, I think, that come into the world of non-monogamy, I came into it from a fairly hierarchical, normative angle, right? Like I think that a lot of relationships that explore non-monogamy, or a lot of people that go into non-monogamous relationships, I think that they come at them from a very couple-centric place. They come at them from a gentle first step, kind of dip your toe in the water place. I'm thinking of relationships between two people that maybe are having problems, or maybe one partner becomes interested in another person, and there's these gentle allowances that can occasionally occur. Part of like early stage polyamory, for example. So polyamory is a term that some people use to describe their relationship, and it usually means it's an sort of largely encompassing relationship model. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but it usually means that you engage in more than one relationship at a time. Sometimes they're connected, sometimes there's not. There are books at this point, lots of books written about polyamory as a thing. But most people, they'll start in a couple-centric place, and there'll be allowances for non-monogamy, right? Where it's like, it's okay if my partner has sex with other people as long as they do so safely and they don't tell me about it. I don't want to hear about it. I'm going to avoid feeling bad by not hearing about it. Or my partner can have sex with other people as long as they are of a particular gender. This is really gross. I'm going to be judgmental. I'm about to judgmentalize. So if I'm talking about a relationship that you are currently in and I'm talking shit, it's not because I'm personally upset about your relationship. It's because there's a kind of relationship that exists that is really dangerous to be in. So you see this a lot where it's a straight man and a non-straight woman, and the straight man says, it's okay if my girlfriend bangs other chicks. So The reason why that's gross to me, if it's unexamined, right? If you talk about it and you treat it with an appropriate amount of respect and you treat the people that this person has sex with as a good thing, it can be very dangerous if you don't do that, because it implies a lot of very imbalanced, like sexist stuff, right? It implies that it's okay for two women to have sex because, you know, it doesn't count if there's not a man there. I know you probably aren't thinking about it that way, but there's a lot of kind of nasty stuff going on there. If that's the kind of relationship that you're in and it's working for you, awesome. And like, just keep on top of it. Be cognizant of why those relationships might drift into kind of gross territory. Treat people with respect, regardless of their gender. Two women that want to have sex with each other is no less valid than a woman and a man wanting to have sex with each other. So just be careful not to fetishize it. But it's my pet peeve. There's a lot of these kinds of relationships, but often that's the place where people will start, right? Like for me, the first sort of steps into non-monogamy that I ever took were being in a relationship with another person. And because I felt comfortable with them being interested in other people, they would have someone else they were interested in. I spent a lot of time in those positions, and it was fine, but it still never quite felt authentic in the way that I liked, because the thing that comes up in relationships, and I'm gonna get on a bit of an anarchist tear here, but relationships generally involve internal and external hierarchies, right? Hierarchy is really important to me to understand, not to have. Hierarchy is very bad for me in my relationships. But when I talk about hierarchy, what I mean is, again, going back to that narrative of how relationships are generally assumed to work, you have at the bottom your acquaintances, right? The bottom of the pyramid is all the people that you kind of know and spend time with, maybe your coworkers. And then above them are your friends, right? Your friends are more important to you de facto than your coworkers or your acquaintances. Your romantic partners are more important de facto than your friends, right? Like if you feel romantically about someone, that escalates them above. They go another level up above on the hierarchy. People you have sex with are probably above the hierarchy, above your friends in the hierarchy, but they might be below romance. They might be below your friends, depending on who they are and how you treat them. Sex is a weird one. It moves around. And then above that, the people that you feel romantically towards, the people that you have sex with, and then a bunch of other stuff, like the people you are married to, they go up at the top, right? So when it comes time to prioritize humans, we look at that narrative and we say, top to bottom, right? Your friends will never come before your wife or husband. Your friends will never come before the people that you love. Your friends will never come before whatever. And non-monogamy introduces additional types of romantic and sexual relationships into that hierarchy. And this is where, if you've listened to polyamorous people talk about their relationships, you'll sometimes hear terms like primary and secondary. A lot of structural hierarchical polyamory tends to deal in clear hierarchies where your primary partner might be the person you live with, might be the parent of one of your children. It might be the partner you had the longest. But generally it's the person that you love the most. It's the person that gets to be at the top of the hierarchy. And if you have another person, whether you call them your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whatever, they're going to come in as a secondary element to that structure. And so by definition, you're doing that person a disservice by telling them, I like you, I care about you, maybe I want to do sex stuff with you, and you are important, but you're not as important as this person. This person, they're more important than you. And usually that means if they say I can't hang out with you on a given day, I don't. If they say I can't sleep over at your house, I can't. If they tell me that I should break up with you, I'm going to take that very seriously. So you end up in this position where you are in a relationship. If you're someone's secondary, you are in a relationship with someone and you are not as important to them. Like, there are rules that will structure around how your relationship is maintained that don't involve you. You will not get to make those decisions. Now, if everyone consents in that structure to giving up some of their power, I mean, okay, that might work, but I don't ever want to be in a position, and I'm not saying this like someone who's ever been perfect at this. I've been in very hierarchically oriented non-monogamous relationships, and it's hurt people. I've been hurt by that, right? I've been in relationships with people who are more important to each other than I am to either of them, and I've been cast aside as a result, right? They've decided as a couple not to date me anymore. And I've been in that position before too, where things like veto power and schedule control and stuff come up. And it's not okay for me. It might be okay for other relationships, but I cannot do that. It doesn't work for me. And the older I get and the more experience with the relationships I get, the more I'm not okay with external structures of power telling me or the people I love what to do. And sometimes those external structures of power are the people that I love, which is some horse shit, right? Now, again, consent and intent, right? Like, if you come into a relationship with the intent to be in that relationship the way that it is, and you consent to the power structures of that relationship, you as a person have the right to choose to be governed, right? And this is where you can hear me getting into the anarchy part. I think the biggest relationship revelation I've ever had, it was a few years ago. It would have been just a bit before I started streaming. And for me, it was discovering relationship anarchy. Now, relationship anarchy is it's a silly sounding thing, but it's a philosophy of having relationships that's built on similar, if not identical, principles to anarchy. And the idea, the core idea of relationship anarchy is that every relationship is unique, and that relationships should be built on the idea of abundance instead of entitlement. The idea of, and this is how I structure my life. This is how I structure the way that I have relationships. I have a core set of personal values for myself. I have a core set of things that I believe in and I care about in relationships, and I speak to those when I form new relationships with people. And to me, a relationship isn't just someone that I love and want to have sex with and I'm on that escalator. A relationship is everyone that I care about, everyone that I am close to. I have a relationship, right? And this is why, to go back to the whole idea of Valentine's Day being kind of bullshit, Valentine's Day celebrates a very normative structure of you and your sweetheart and love and commercialized expressions of that love. But we should be celebrating all relationships no matter what their content is. The people that I have sexual interest in are not better or more important than the people that I have platonic intensity for. The idea here is it we question the idea of love being a finite resource and that is only real when it's limited to a couple, when it's limited to a normative model. I can, and you can too. You can strongly love everyone. You have the capacity in your heart to care deeply about as many people as you want. And that, I think, is a fascinating revelation. And that love takes all forms, that you can love a person in a way that feels authentic for you, and it doesn't have to fit a certain model. And there doesn't have to be one person that you love more than every other person, that you can stop quantifying your love and start to qualify it instead. I think the idea here too is to break down necessity, right? That love is a thing required only between people who are sexually capable of engaging, right? Like this allows for straight people to love one another. This allows for aromantic and asexual love. The idea is that love is abundant and every relationship is unique. And this comes from my introduction to relationship anarchy, and it's absolutely something that if you're interested in it, you should read. There's a Swedish woman named Andy Nordgren, and she wrote in, I think, 2006, this manifesto of relationship anarchy. Weird side note, I believe at the time she was a developer on Eve Online. So bonus nerd points, Andy Nordgren. I'll tweet it. I'll post it in the in the chat as well once y'all catch up with me. But reading her manifesto really like got my head into a place where I could understand what this sort of love might be like, what these kinds of relationship models are like. So the idea of treating yourself as a source of unlimited affection is pretty great. Now, not expecting yourself to love everybody, but giving yourself the opportunity to care about people as deeply as feels right for you. That's a big part of what I'm about. The idea that you are entitled to nothing, right? That no person is entitled to a response or reciprocation or feelings or behavior. No matter what you feel, you're not allowed to expect or feel entitled to anything from another person. Saying I love you to someone should expect no response. It's an expression of your feelings, right? Your history with a person, the kind of relationships that you're having with them, none of that should imply command or compliance over their behavior. Now, this is the thing that we really have to struggle with, because there are built-in structures of control and power in normative relationships, right? There are ways that we are expected to behave. If you are someone's boyfriend or husband, there is a codified structure of normative expectations that are placed on you by the world and by your partner, probably, that we can give one of these to. Compromise doesn't make relationships better. Expectations and entitlement don't make them better. Treat people with love and respect. And this is where the kind of anarchist lean comes in that everyone should be allowed to govern themselves, even in relationships. And I think what ends up happening here is it, for me at least, in my experience, it allows you to develop every relationship as a unique thing and forces you to develop communication around that. And so I'm in this place now where my relationship politics demand treating each person that I'm with, whether they are someone that I am crazy in love with, or that I'm just like hanging out with and getting to know, whether I want to have sex with them and they want to have sex with me, or whether they're someone that is a close friend that I have never met in person. All of those people get to be important to me on their own merits. And that, I think, is the most important thing, right? Now, this stuff can be pretty fucking confusing in real life. I have this structure. Where I'm allowed to, and I'm empowering myself to have all these relationships, but because the kinds of relationships that I want take so much work, I tend not to have a lot of them, right? I have a handful of people that I care desperately about. I give myself allowances to feel relationships develop the way that they want to, but they're still work, right? And anyone who is close to me, you know, I'm all about talking about stuff, right? I spend a lot of time expressing the things that I need, making room for the people that I'm close to express what they need too, and listening, right? And so building relationships from nothing and not being able to rely on the kind of normative model of relationships means that I have to work extra hard to not compromise with people, to say like, I respect you and I respect what you want, and here's what I want, and only the places where those two things overlap make the relationship. And I respect people that I am close to, no matter what the content of our relationship is. My relationship with people that I have lived with, my relationship with people that I just play games with, my relationship with everyone is unique and beautiful and serious. And that shit is what makes me feel good about my life. And what's great, what's absolutely the best, is that it allows us to customize our relationship exactly the way that we want without any expectation. So if I'm in a relationship with someone and say it's like I'm in a relationship with a person who considers themselves, they're a cis man, they consider themselves straight, and we have a close relationship, but one day they're like, hey, you know what? I would really like to make out with you. I think that would be fun. I can say, cool, maybe that sounds like a fun thing for us to do. Let's talk about what that might look like on our relationship. Is that going to make you feel like uncomfortable? Are you trying to like maybe work out some sexual identity stuff and I'm a safe place for you to do that? What's that like for you? We can discuss it, and then I can agree. I can have informed consent to the way that my relationship is going. And it doesn't have to be about sex either. You can talk about things with people no matter what the tenor of those things are. You can say, hey, so I know that we really only just like play games together and stuff, right? Like we hang out once a week and, you know, we play role-playing games and that's cool, but like I'd really like to like actually be your friend. I'd like to get to know you better. Could we like hang out and watch a movie sometime? Could we like go get dinner? Could we just like discuss this? And then you talk about it. And that's okay. You're allowed to do that. You can navigate and negotiate every part of your relationship with another person. And that can mean you can live with your friends. You can have sex with people you're not in romantic relationships with. You can be in love with people you don't have sex with. You can have a bunch of friends you're real close to and have a wide variety of exciting interactions with them, because nothing defines your relationship except you and the people you are in relationships with, right? You never have to do anything that you don't consent to. And I don't, again, just mean consent gets attached to sex so often because there it's a necessity. I think it's a necessity everywhere, but we should think about it in terms of all the aspects of our relationship. And what I think that this has done for me is freed me up to feel like my relationships have integrity, that they are doing justice to the people that are in them. Because honestly, and this is going to be a weird thing, because for someone who cares about and thinks about relationships as much as I do, I actually don't give a fuck about relationships. Relationships don't exist, right? A relationship, the thing that we think of as a relationship, is actually just the byproduct of two people interacting with one another, right? It's fuzz. It's the middle space. All that really matters is the people. And this is why I don't ever want to be a part of, and I would never hope for anyone that I'm with to be a part of a relationship that isn't 100% what both people want. And this can be as simple as, I want ramen for dinner and you want tacos. We're not going to come to a compromise and get pho, because pho isn't ramen. Pho isn't tacos. Pho is nothing. It's not a thing that either of us really want. Pho is the imaginary relationship. Pho is the thing that doesn't actually exist. So what I want is to be able to say, I'm going to go get ramen, and I'm going to go get ramen with another person who wants ramen. My ramen is a part of my relationship with this person, but not with you. And that's okay. I still love you. I want you to go get tacos by yourself, or go get tacos with the 5 other people that you love that like tacos. That doesn't mean our relationship is bad or broken, right? It just means that we don't do the things together we don't want to do. Because I think that we end up in these situations where monogamy encourages this. Okay, pho's pretty good, but ramen. we end up in these situations where we're expected to compromise. We're expected to say, I want A and you want B. Let's both have C. Nobody wants C. Or I want A, you don't want A. Cool, you're going to do A because you love me. And that's when shit gets dangerous, right? It's not fair. It's not fair to demand A from a person who doesn't want A. You know? You're allowed to have a relationship with someone else who likes A. And you do A with them and you do C with them. And sometimes if you're really lucky, you've got a couple of people who all want to get together and do the D together. The point being that compromise is a relationship killer. Compromise is a love destroyer, because it's not martyring yourself for the relationship, not getting what you want, and coming up with some third thing that nobody wants. That's only hurting both of you, and it's hurting the relationship. And I think the reason is that we're scared to be separated from the top of our pyramid, right? The hierarchy demands that the person on the top is the person that you do everything with. And so you end up doing things you just don't want to. And I think saying no to me is one of the most like romantic, beautiful things I can think of, right? If I say to a person, I would really like to do this with you, and they say, you know, I don't want to do that, but here's something else I would like to do. Maybe we can do that. And then I can say, oh yeah, that's cool. Because I am very attracted to people who assert themselves and what they need. Not in a shitty way, but people that assert what they want and have firm, clear boundaries that say, these are the things that I care about. Because then I can look at that list. I can say, the things that you care about, well, hell, 5 out of 6 of those things, I'm into those things too. And now those 5 things are our relationship. Now, the reason that I say I don't care about relationships is that the relationship is a byproduct of giving the people who are interacting all the power, right? The other people that I care about them because they're people, right? I love them for who they are. And it doesn't matter what kind of relationship I'm in. It doesn't matter the parameters of that relationship. The people that I love them because of who they are, not because of what they can do for me, not because of how we can compromise. And so when people say, this is what I want, this is who I am, this is my situation, these are the things I can give you, I can do the same. And then we're people interacting on an even level. There's no hierarchy there. And when you start to do that with more than one person, when you have these relationships that are unique and powerful, sometimes they're going to overlap, right? Here's me. Here's person B. And there's where our Venn diagram overlaps. Person B might have another person. There might be a person C that they care about, and their Venn diagram might be over here. It might just be them overlapping, but the 3 of us might have something in common that we all like. And that can be an activity, that can be feelings, that can be sex stuff. You allow yourself to forge relationships that are built on the interaction of unique level individuals. And that's, I mean, who doesn't love an equal, right? We don't want relationships with people who act like they are above or below us. Unless we do, right? And this is where things like power exchange and voluntary governance comes from, because we're allowed to say, I'm giving up some of this control. We're allowed to say, I consent to letting you make this decision because that's what I really want, right? And this is where you start to get into, get into, like, usually in an erotic sense, but sometimes across the board. But power dynamics in relationships are real, and you can negotiate that because you're still an equal. Giving up power on purpose, informed consent to give up your power, is as much a power move as taking control that's offered to you. And I'm not going to get into all the details about how this stuff works, because it's not really the world that I move in. But in those circumstances, it may appear that the person who's giving up power is the weaker party. They're lower in the chain, but that formalized hierarchy is actually the other way around. being able to tell a person, I trust you with control over something important, that's immensely powerful. Anybody can try to seize power. It takes a real will to be able to open up and give it away. So I want to make sure if people have questions for me, I may not be able to answer all of them. I want to take a few if you have any. So I want to leave some room for that. Keep in mind, this is a very personal topic for me. If you ask a question that's like too specific or whatever, I trust you. I trust that you won't. But if you ask a question that's too specific or too personal, I'll try to twist it so I can answer it more impersonally. But if you have questions for me, please. I've been doing the non-monogamy thing basically all my life. I've been really like politicizing my relationships in the like non-governance anarchistic sense in the last 2 or 3 years. And I've been queer forever. I just didn't realize it right away. So if you have thoughts and questions about those things, I'm down to try to answer. I have love to give in the form of information. How do I define informed consent? I mean, informed consent is just being told the things that you need to know, or asking questions to find out the information that you need to make a decision about your body, about your relationship, about your life, in a way that makes that consent meaningful. Uninformed consent, saying yes to something you don't understand or saying yes to something that you don't have all the information on, that's not really consent. I feel like all proper consent is informed, and that's the jam. That's how that works. Let's see. Where do I find poly communities? So here's the thing. There wasn't a relationship anarchy community in Vancouver. And so, I didn't talk about labels. I'm talking about labels real quick. I don't ever want to be anybody's boyfriend. I don't ever want to be anybody's husband. I don't want to be any generic bullshit title to anyone. I will happily negotiate specific titles with people because pet names are super fucking cute. And I like that shit. There's like about a half. If anyone ever listened to Emily and I have a conversation in real life, you would not understand half the shit we say, because as you're in a relationship with someone long enough, and we've known each other for almost 10 years now, you lose the ability to speak normal English to each other. I love that stuff. I love developing that language of familiarity, but I don't like externally put upon titles. So if you are close to me, if we are in a relationship and you want to call me something cute, let's talk about it. Let's negotiate that shit. But I don't want to be your boyfriend. Anyway, so there were no relationship anarchy communities in Vancouver. There were a few online. Relationship anarchy as a thing is more quickly picking up, but hasn't really filled out. So Kale, someone I am very close to, and relationship anarchy superstar, Kale started a group on Facebook, and we just started inviting people, and now it's a big community. So we created our own. Kale really did. But Facebook groups, like poly, especially polyamory, people who are curious about or into polyamory like to form clusters, and look on Facebook. Check out Facebook groups. You will find a local poly group, and they like to do meetups too, for the most part. So you'll be able to find like a nice low pressure meetup. You should be able to check out and meet people. Just don't go there trying to pick people up. That's a no. It's not a dating group. Go on OkCupid. There's a lot of non-monogamous people there. Let's see. Ralph asks, have you ever done monogamy to make another person happy? Yes, and never again. I think I could be with someone who was monogamous, who like they didn't want to date or be close to anybody else, but it's part of who I am that I'm not. That doesn't make me happy. I've definitely in my earlier years been a part of those kinds of relationships, and sucks. It hurts. It's not fun or good. Can I conceive, Dave is asking, can I conceive a situation where it's the reasonable thing to do to value monogamy as an implicit way of setting boundaries for trust, and you find it hard to believe in people? Yeah. So what Dave is saying here is that monogamy is like it's a safety net. It's a societal safety net, but the net has holes in it. So yeah, we can use a safety net there. We can be like, yay, monogamy, and jump off the relationship cliff, and hopefully monogamy will catch us. But there's a pretty good chance we're just going to rip a hole in it and fall and die. Trust has to be built from the ground up. And I don't trust monogamy to help out with that. I think it's a false promise, which is scary. I know, because it means you got to do all the work yourself. But if you get to a place where you find that monogamy makes you feel comfortable and safe, and you find someone who you can negotiate what your monogamy looks like, do that. It's totally okay to not want to like get really involved with a bunch of people. You may just really want to like love down on one person. Rock and roll. Do that thing. But negotiate it. Talk about it first. Work it out with them. Let me see. What's a good way to quell people's awkward and angsty feelings towards non-monogamy? The awkward jealousy that creeps up personally and extra personally. Okay, so Amazalan, jealousy is a big question for non-monogamy. It's not for me. I don't feel it in the same way that other people do. I'm really lucky that way. But jealousy happens. Jealousy is a fear response to losing something or potentially losing something that you care about, right? The feeling of jealousy most people have when someone they care about is out having a good time with someone else is that, oh God, what if they like them more than me? What if they leave me? What if they play Mario Kart better than I play Mario Kart? Mario Kart's a euphemism here. What do I do? And in that case, you have to be cool with yourself. You have to be like, nah, I'm fucking good at Mario Kart. I play Mario Kart. No one is a better Donkey Kong than me. I know how to throw bananas for days. I am a good person. I'm a good person that brings unique, cool things to the relationship. Jealousy is obliterated by self-confidence. So get with you. You're cool. The person you're with, they think you're cool too. In your own special, unique way. No one, I don't care how good they are at Mario Kart, no one will ever be who you are. And that's the ultimate weapon against jealousy. For other people being jealous, you got to encourage them to do the same. People need to own their feelings. A lot of hierarchical structure and a lot of stuff in non-monogamy comes up as a response to fear. It comes up as a response to jealousy. Do not try to protect yourself from jealousy. Obliterate it with your own coolness and help the people that you're with do the same. It'll never necessarily just go away, but you can work it out. You can work through it as long as people are willing to own it and not put it on someone else. Positive energy. Will I be your Adam? I am my own Adam. I'm me for me, but I am happy that I have a relationship with you, limited and distant though it may be. It still means something to me. Let's take a look at questions. CJ Hamster, what's a really cute pet name you've given or received? Those are all much too embarrassing for me to share, and I refuse. I can't do it. Let's see. How would you go about talking to someone about ditching labels such as girlfriend, husband, with a person who's really invested? Yeah, that's a tricky one, right? So it's hard, especially if you come from a place where you're like, this is my boyfriend. And you're like, I don't want to be called that. The reason I don't like being called someone's boyfriend is that it implies all kinds of structural bullshit, right? It implies that we are monogamous. It implies a certain degree of romantic or sexual content that may or may not be there. It's just not for me. Calling me someone's boyfriend isn't for me. It's not for them. It's for this third party who's too scared to ask about the details of our relationship. So instead, I work out with that person what we want to call each other. Maybe they're my sweetheart. Maybe we're sweethearts. That's kind of cute, right? Maybe I'm something else. But if you're already invested in that, I think that a lot of people, you can talk to them about renegotiating what boyfriend means, but it's about other people's perception. You can't change that. You really just got to get used to it, I think. Like if it feels uncomfortable, listen, this is like if someone changed their name, right? If I were to like change my name to Dave, that'd be confusing. But let's say I changed my name to Dave and I said to somebody that I was close to, I'm like, I'm Dave now. Call me Dave. I really like the name Dave. Please call me Dave from now on. And they're like, but Adam. And I'm like, hey, I don't like it when you call me Adam. I want to be called Dave. It's the same thing. You can just tell this person like, hey, please be respectful of my choices. Don't use this title to describe me. Use my name, right? Use something that we've agreed upon. And I think that's more important. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Staves has got a really good question. And this is one that I'm not sure I have a full understanding of here. But I'm going to try to address it. So isn't it a reality that relationships aren't just one person to one person, but informed by relationships to others? For example, children, pets, work, obligations can't be avoided by way of anarchy. Can we really abstract relationships to the case of one-on-one interactions instead of being mutually related within society? That's a great question. I think what I try to do is address each relationship as being its own thing, but don't pretend like it's not affected by the rest of the world, right? Like, for example, if I'm close to a person, I can say our relationship only contains the content that is between us. But if that person is going through, say, a breakup with someone else, or they've just lost their job, or I had a really good day, or I'm in a bad mood because of something else, all of those external factors change our feelings and thoughts towards life in general. And I think the best that you can do is acknowledge that, is say, like, I'm having a bad day, or your other relationships are affecting you in an indirect way, right? We want to put it into a place where the choices that we make and the ways we interact with people come from within, not from without. So even if you're going through a breakup with someone else and it's because of another partner, maybe it's because of another relationship you have, don't make your relationship with that person just about that trauma, about that crisis, right? Recognize that it's a factor in the same way that the weather is a factor, probably with a lot more weight, but everything that goes into your relationship comes from somewhere, but it filters through you. And I think that's the best thing we can do. It's not about ignoring those external factors. It's about acknowledging them and letting us understand them as people. And then the effect they have on our relationship and working through it. Yeah. Let's see. So Inkjective says, isn't this the aspect of this anarchy that you only nitpick the parts and things in relationships you like, and that includes the responsibilities relationship come with? Highly egoistic. Okay. Yeah. So this is the thing. Yeah. You can do this bad. You can be a fucking jerk and be like, I only do the things I want. Fuck you. Haha. The point is to want things that are good for everyone. You want the happiness of the people that are with you. I'm not saying like I will never get tacos because I don't like tacos, because I can prioritize in my ladder of needs someone else's happiness over my need for ramen, right? I can say, listen, I love ramen. I want to eat ramen right now. I don't want to go get tacos with you because I don't like tacos. But like you as a person, my taco loving friend, I care about you more than I care about that shit. So I'm going to do a thing that maybe isn't explicitly my priority, but it makes me happy because I can help you, because I can be with you and we can get tacos together. And yeah, you like tacos and that makes me happy. That I think is what really matters, right? Is that you choose to do the things that you care about. And some of those things should be selfless. Some of those things should be for the sake of the people that you love, and they shouldn't be compromised. You should do them because you want to. And if you don't want to do them, but you find yourself doing them anyway, maybe you don't actually like that person as much as you think you do. Or maybe you're not as good a selfless person as you think you are, and you need to work on that. I think that community is a huge part of how anarchy works from a social level, and you have to care about the other person as a fully realized entity in the same way you care about yourself. Otherwise, we just slip into relationship libertarianism, and then you might as well just put a gun in your mouth. Don't do that. If you're a libertarian, just try to rethink the structures of your life. I'm just saying I wouldn't do it. What if you're really bad at Mario Kart? I don't know. Get good at other stuff. How do you relate biological reality and evolutionary psychology? I don't. I'm a person. I get to make choices about shit. How does childbearing affect non-monogamy? Okay, I don't care about babies. I do not want to have kids. But other people want to have kids, and that's awesome. And if you're going to engage it with a person that wants to have a kid with you, make sure you do it because you want to have kids. I think sometimes there are obligations that you cannot say no to. And I think that if you agree to have a baby, that baby's well-being is an obligation that you now have. You've said yes to not being allowed to say no. You've given up your right to self-governance in some ways, because now that baby's going to govern your ass. And I think that's okay. It goes back to what I was just saying about choosing to put someone else's needs and desires above your own. Babies. I am not going to go there. I'm not personally going to get into that space because no, thank you. But someone else's babies, that's okay. They're cute. Look at them. Look at those babies. I think also non-monogamy and anormal relationship structures allow for a much wider network of people to help care for children, right? Like if it's just parent A and parent B and baby, if parent A and B are having problems or their life becomes difficult or like something bad happens to one of them, it's just parent A and baby or no one and baby. But if you have a network of people that all care about each other, there are going to be some of them that care about this little larva and will, I don't know, hug it and pet it and whatever else babies need. Have I ever had friends or family have an issue with my lifestyle? Yes. Yeah. I have been in relationships with people who are like, yeah, cool. Non-monogamy. That sounds great. Let's do that. And they like date other people and they break up with them and they have a great time. And then I get invested in someone and they're like, whoa, I'm feeling jealous. This is fucking me up. I can't do this non-monogamy thing. I haven't had anyone that's not close to me. I haven't had anyone be like, I'm out, right? Like, I bet you I've lost Twitter followers for talking about it, but like, not really, right? Like, I think that for me, the people that I'm close to, they get it all up front. I let them know. I'm like, this is how it do. This is how I do relationships. And you can't have me if you're not okay with that. It's tricky stuff. Let's take a look. Do I think Kanye West needs me? I mean, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what Kanye West needs. Oh, yeah. Positive Energy's got a good question. Okay. With relationship anarchy, do you ever feel like you get spread too thin? You feel love for too many? So I have a near infinite supply of love in my heart. I can love hard and I can love for a long time. No, I have a lot of emotional intensity in this black little ball of coal inside me. And I definitely I feel like I can give as much as people are willing and happy to have, but I don't have an infinite supply of time. I am a busy motherfucker, right? I'm hanging out here, I'm doing this, I'm playing role-playing games, I'm going on trips, I'm doing shit. All of this stuff takes up time. And right now I've got several close relationships. And whenever I meet someone that I'm excited about or interested in, there is that potential that relationship might grow into something that takes up my time. So I have to be careful, right? I've said this very recently to someone that I really care about. We were having a conversation about this exact topic, and they said, you know, you're really busy, but I never feel like you're busy because you make time for me. Scheduling is a big part of my life, and it's a way, giving people my time is a way that I show love for them. So yeah, there is a potential for me to get spread thin, but it's not about a scarcity of love. It's not like I'm loved out. It's about, there's a scarcity of time to express that love. So that's a thing. Do I ever think about becoming a dad? I'm already your dad, chat. You are all the babbies that I need. I don't need to make someone pregante. People doing math in chat. People calling me Dave. Thank you. Anything additional to say about asexual relationships? I've never had one. I've never been in a relationship with someone who is asexual. I've never been identified that way myself. Sex is a thing. Sex is important and fun, but it doesn't have to be. And it's differently important or fun for different people, and different kinds of sex is important for different people. And the kind of sex that you want to have, including none at all, is a factor in your relationships, but it doesn't have to be the only thing. I would happily, willingly, lovingly be in a relationship with someone I cared about, even if we never boned. And guess what? I'm doing it. I don't think that romance and sex and friendship are a requirement for a serious relationship. And so being in a relationship with an asexual person would be fine. I do not need to have sex with everybody, or like most people even. Any word on entirely online or virtual relationships without physical components? Yeah. Physicality is more or less important depending on who you are and what your feelings are like, the things that you want. And I don't necessarily need to have a physical component to all my relationships. I like being face to face with someone that I want to smooch. That's important because e-smooches are not a thing yet. And it's nice sometimes just to like hold a person or be close to them, but it's not a necessity. I like interacting with people's minds, and I have powerful relationships, serious, powerful relationships with people that I almost never see or never at all see in person. Like some of you. Doesn't mean I love you any less. Have my views on these sorts of issues come up in a work or public-facing appearance where you've been asked onto a project, panel, podcast, or asked to tone down or shy away from certain subjects? Not this stuff, not relationship stuff. Politics stuff, for sure. I've been asked to be like, I know this is a big thing, but can you like not mention this on our podcast? And that's okay, right? It's their house. You don't come into someone's house and start fucking pissing on their drapes. If someone asks you, this is a consent negotiation. I would like you to consent to not talking about this particular subject if you come into this podcast. And I can say, cool, I consent to not talking about that subject while on your podcast. That's the exchange. I'm allowed. I'm giving up that right. I don't often, and if stuff comes up, I talk about it usually, but I've been asked to tone it down. Mostly around like politics stuff, not so much around like, don't be such a big slutty gay. Everybody reacting to me being their dad. Yeah. So let's talk about priority over hierarchy. So there's hierarchy, as we talked about, where there is an implied structure of this kind of person is more important than this person. My bestie is more important than my friends. My sex friends are more important than my regular friends. Like you have this hierarchy. That's hierarchy. It comes from without. It carries a lot of social pressure, and you can replicate external hierarchies internally in your relationships. Now, priority is a different thing. I prioritize, everyone prioritizes. I prioritize the people I like the most over the people I don't, right? Like, I'm not going to, the equality is not the issue here. As a relationship anarchist, I don't feel the necessity to treat everyone equally. I treat everyone as they are. And there are people who I get to see once every 4 or 5 months, right? And my relationship with them matters, but we can only prioritize one hangout every quarter, right? And that's okay. It's still a valid relationship, but we've chosen that priority. You can still spend more or less time based on how much you want to with a person. Ultimately, that's why making time for someone is an act of love, an act of affection, because you're choosing to make space for those people. And that's a thing. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Have you ever felt used by someone as a tool to test, experiment, or be wild without them expressing this as their motivation? Yes. Both on the side of not being straight and on the side of being non-monogamous, there are certain circumstances in which people might go looking for a relationship with a person who isn't going to tie them down, or with whom they can try new things. And I like being I like helping people learn things about themselves, and that's nice, but I do have to be careful about that. It doesn't happen to me very often, but it's been heartbreaking before, and I've definitely had that experience where people are like, okay, cool, this was fun and everything, but like, I'm gonna go get a real boyfriend. Or like, they'll do the non-monogamy thing, and they're like, this is working out great. Oh, I met somebody. They want me to not be non-monogamous, and I really like them. We're probably gonna get married, so see you later, Adam. And I mean, that's okay. It happens. I just have to be aware of it. I have to be aware that that's possible, because it can be tricky. Let's see. Oh, y'all are so nice. Do you have any advice for dealing with the attraction you might have to people who are unavailable? Oh, God, yeah. As in, they're in an exclusive relationship, they're not attracted to you, gender stuff, whatever. Those feelings are hard to manage sometimes. So, God, and this is going to sound so flip, I don't have time. I don't have time to like people that don't have time to like me back. But I think what you can do is acknowledge shit, right? You can be in a situation with someone, and I've had this happen, where I've been like getting to be closer and closer with someone who's in like a monogamous relationship, right? And I'm like, hey, so, we've been talking, and you know that I do relationships in a bit of a weird way. And sometimes that means that I end up like developing like a crush on people who can't reciprocate that. And I just wanted to let you know, I wanted to tell you right now, like, I have these feelings for you, but I don't need reciprocity. You do not need to feel like that means you have to do anything. I just want to be emotionally available and open and honest with you. I want to tell you I like you. I'm having romantic feelings about you. And if you are not in a position to or not interested in reciprocating those, that's cool. That's on me. I will handle my own feelings. It won't fuck things up for us. I'm not going to get weird on you. So I guess the answer is like, own your feelings, be in relationships with people that you can be honest with, and then work through that shit. It's hard. And it's hard for them too, right? Because maybe they do like you, but they're in this monogamous relationship. They have this other arrangement that they can't, or maybe they just aren't attracted to you in that way. And it's sad. It's hard, but it goes back to what I was saying about jealousy. Like, you're fucking cool, right? You are a cool person. You're a good, interesting, fun, cool person. And that should override it. That should help at least bump you up and put you in a place where you're going to be okay. That's a thing. Yeah, right? Jealousy is a thing. So one thing that I really like, and John and Staves are talking about this a little bit. There's this idea of, and this plays right into the hierarchy. Let's talk about the friend zone. This is for the friend zone. Let's burn it down with nuclear weapons. The friend zone is a thing that is perceived to exist where nice guys are placed because they're not fuckable, right? Where it's like, I have an attraction for a girl and I want her to like me. And she does not like me in the way that I like because I'm nice, and she keeps putting me in the friend zone. Okay, A, being friends with people fucking rules. B, having sex with someone is not better than being friends with them. C, being someone's boyfriend is not better than being friends with them. Being friends with someone fucking rules. If I got put in the friend zone, I would be like, yes, I'm friends with somebody, right? Like, oh, why does it have to be so hierarchically oriented? Why does it have to be like that? Why do we have to be so fucking gross about the way that we interact with women, right? And this is a very gendered thing. Fuck. It drives me crazy. The point is, stop treating people. I'm yelling at someone who's obviously not in this chat, but you, whoever you fucking are, if you're going into this situation and all you want is to like make someone your girlfriend and you don't care about being friends with them or knowing things about them or like engaging with them in a way that has authenticity, that doesn't involve you boning them, fuck you. You don't even deserve to be their friend. Get the fuck out, right? Have authenticity. Negotiate your relationships. And like I was saying earlier, if you like someone, tell them. And if they say, I don't like you like that, thank them for being clear about their boundaries. They respect you enough not to bullshit you. If someone says to you, I don't want to have sex with you, it's going to sting like a motherfucker if you want to have sex with them. But remember, there are lots of ways to have friendships with people. There are lots of ways to interact. Fuck. Friendship is great. So do that. Do it and enjoy it, right? It's great. Being friends is cool. Sharing things with people, being intimate. Intimacy takes hard work no matter what you're doing. But romance and sex are not better than being friends with a person. There's no hierarchy there. Blow it up with dynamite. I don't know what else to say about it. Like, it's gross. It's gross. And this is why I love relationship anarchy, because I don't need romance to care deeply about people who are close to me. I don't need sex for that either, but I can have it. And it can be what it is. Every relationship I have is its own thing. And every relationship that you have with the people who are close to you, they should be able to be their own thing too. And don't take any of this to mean that monogamy is evil, or that having one partner that is like the center of your universe and you're the center, being a pair of binary stars is not, it's not like it's wrong. There's a lot of problems with socially forced hierarchical relationships, but if you're not hurting anybody and you're being legit and everyone in your life is getting an opportunity to have informed consensual relationships that conform to whatever makes sense for them, as long as everyone has that chance, you can do relationships however you want, right? And that's okay. You can live with your best friend, and you can have a boyfriend in another country, and you can have someone that you have sex with twice a year because that's when your schedules collide. You can have complex nested family. You can listen to Taylor Swift because you like Taylor Swift. Don't listen to Taylor Swift because she's on the radio. Metaphors. So yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, for me and all of this stuff, it's my relationship politics, because I care about people more than I care about relationships. I care about interacting with people with a degree of integrity that I think you can only get by sitting down and really engaging with a person and their desires. If you take nothing else away from this, go home, go to your relationships. And by that, I mean your best friend, the people you talk to online, your longtime romantic partners, that person that you had sex with yesterday and you still don't really know much about them. Look at all of those relationships and think about that Venn diagram, right? Think about, what do I want out of this relationship? What makes me happy about this relationship? And then, more importantly, ask that person, hey, what do you want this relationship to be like? What makes you happy? How can we show love for each other that is non-violent? Do that. Go do that. Do that right now. Do it today. And even if it doesn't change anything, it'll help you think about relationships in a different way. And that's it. I mean, that's not it. I could go on for a long time, but we'll make it short and sweet. Thanks for coming, everybody. I have a lot of feelings and thoughts about shit, and this is how we do. Sometimes I just sit down and I talk them at you. If you want to ask more questions, or you want to like pick up this conversation, like let's do it. I have a Discord server. You can use the Discord command if you're watching on Twitch. There's a channel in there called Real Talk. Now I'm gonna invite you to that channel to have a discussion about relationship politics. But I got to tell you, you got to be respectful, and you got to listen, right? Every good conversation, and here we're going to tie it back to the office hours. Every good game of Dungeons and Dragons, every conversation is predicated on the idea that we are there to listen first and speak second. So if someone says something you disagree with, listen to them. Ask questions. Understand their point of view before you start spouting your own. Get on over there. Go chat it up. And feel enlightened. Learn things. I'm going to go and get in a car and drive to America to see somebody I like. I hope you have a good day. Whatever your day looks like. This has been nice. I feel good about this.